Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Spider, and welcome back to another review. And today we're taking a look at the Transformers Buzzworthy Origin Bumblebee. This figure released back in 2021, and based on his appearance from the very first episode of the original Transformers cartoon. So, to get this review started, let's take a look at the packaging. So here we have the box, and it is very yellow, but then again I suppose that is fitting for Bumblebee. On the front of the box, you got Transformers, the name of the figure, and on the interior, you got this neat little honeycomb design. Ain't that something? On the back of the box, you have some more images of the figure, and then you have some false advertisements. That's not what those look like, but we'll cover that during the accessory segment. On the side of the box, you get a nice little render of Bumblebee, which I'm not sure what incarnation this is supposed to be based on, or if it's supposed to be based on anything at all. But you got another image of that render, then another one there, and then you have an image of the original cartoon Bumblebee, and then the original comics Bumblebee, which I'm not a big fan of this image. It just kind of looks like he's staring into your soul. I don't like it. And then you get the top of the box, and then the bottom of the box, and then the interesting thing is there is no window on this box. Yeah, so they did a windowless packaging, which not a big fan of. Honestly, I just think it makes it way too easy for people to like mess with the figure, to like rip off the head or something. I don't know. I just don't trust people not to mess with the figures when it comes to these windowless packages. But whatever. That's pretty much it for that. And then we have the instructions. Get a little image of that, and it is those long instructions that they seem to just keep using nowadays, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but you can see other things. Tells you how to do all the stuff. So yeah. Now, here we have the figure, and it is very nice to finally have an official version of this figure. Because for the longest time, all we had to represent Bumblebee's hovercraft mode was a third-party figure. The Moss Toys Skiff, I think is what it was called. Which, while that did look good, it's just nice to have the official thing, you know? So, take a look at this design. It's got a nice blue, clear windshield, which is my favorite kind of windshield that they have on Transformer figures. You get a nice little red Autobot symbol that looks very nice. Got a lot of panel lines all over this thing. Yeah, it looks good. Just a neat little hovercraft thingy. The bottom of the figure is, yeah, there's a lot going on down here. You do have exposed hands and exposed head, which I suppose you could flip the head around, but I typically don't because it kind of gets in the way of the transformation and just makes things stick up, and it doesn't look good. So I used to just leave the head pointing down. Plus, I usually don't really care much about vehicle mode, the underside of a vehicle mode, unless it's an aircraft. I don't really care because an aircraft you're going to want it up in the air. You're going to see the underneath, but on a grounded vehicle, it's going to be on the ground. You're not going to see the bottom of it, so it doesn't bother me as much. What does bother me is that, unfortunately, this front bit here just doesn't line up properly. It just keeps wanting to stick up. I hope that's just my copy that's just a little weird for some reason, but yeah, that really bugs me. But besides that, I really like this thing. This thing is it's just a cool, just a neat little thing. Just look at it. Just look at it. I like it. I really like it. I've always adored Bumblebee's little hovercraft mode, and so to have a figure of it now, I'm happy. I'm just happy with it. Just look at it. Just look at it. I just want to smile looking at this thing. It's just neat. It's a neat little thing. There is some mismatched colors on it. I don't know if it's coming up on camera at all. Maybe you can see a little bit here, but like the actual yellow plastic and the painted plastic are a few shades off, but I really don't care. But if it bugs you, there is quite a bit of that going on with this figure. but I couldn't care more. More? I couldn't care less. I can't speak. He does have a few holes on the figure if you want to plug in some accessories and whatnot. So that's neat. That is quite nice. It also has a little hole on the bottom there. So if you want to plug them into a stand and get them up in the air, you can do that. But that is pretty much it for the little hovercraft. So, on to size comparisons. I don't know why I spun it. So to start things off, as always, here it is with a LEGO minifigure. With the Packet Destruction minifigure Mothra. With the Packet Destruction minifigure Godzilla. And on to some more relevant size comparisons. Here it is with the Energon Igniter's Bumblebee. With the 2007 Movie Deluxe Bumblebee. With the 2007 Movie Deluxe Barricade. And finally, here it is with the War for Cybertron Cliff Jumper from 2010. And man, it had been so long since I messed with this figure, I almost completely forgot how to transform it. That was a little awkward. Anyways, we are done now with size comparisons, so we can move on to measuring time. So you get this little thing here, and we can see it's almost basically 3.5 inches long. And less than 3.5 inches wide. So yeah, it's a pretty small little hockey puck sized thing, but I think that is fitting for Bumblebee. Yeah, so he's just this little perfect, like, pocket-sized little figure. So that is pretty much everything there is to be said about the vehicle mode. So now we transform him and get to the robot mode. So to start with the transformation, first off you want to focus the camera so people can actually see what you're doing. You want to disconnect this pit from that, so you can just bring it down like so, and then you just lift the whole thing up, kind of bring it up out of the way. And I forgot to mention earlier, but this entire piece is clear plastic, but its joints are pretty thick, and I've had this figure for quite a few years, and I messed around with it for quite a while, so it doesn't seem to be any signs of breaking, so don't have to worry about that. Anyways, back to the transformation thingy we're talking about. You want to come here and just disconnect those two bits, which can be a little tricky sometimes. Then you want to just fold the legs out like so, rotate them the proper orientation, and then you want to disconnect that and then bring out that joint like that. Yeah, let me get so you can focus a bit better. There we go, that's a little bit better. Then you want to fold that up and then fold that up again, and you're pretty much done with that. Then you want to bring the ankle out and you kind of collapse it like that. And then you bring this in. There's a little hole there, and a little itty bitty tab there, and you just plug that in, and that sort of holds that in place. So there we have a leg all done. And because the legs are the exact same, you just repeat the same transformation on the other side. Then we come back here to the arms, and just get the nail in there, just separate them, and the arms do somewhat tab together on this little tab there. You just fold the arms out, rotate it at the waist, and you want to just fold this down like that, and there is a little tab here that'll go right there. So you just rotate and just plug all that in. Then you want to just Connect to that, or just unclip it, or whatever you want to call that. Fold that down and just stay together, and just fold that against his back. And then you just take his hands, which are not the easiest to get at. Just get them and fold them out, and there you go. You get Bumblebee in his robot mode. And he looks quite nice. But we'll bring the camera down a little bit so we can get a better look into this figure. Brighten the camera up so you can see him. There you go, that looks a little better. So yeah, we got Bumblebee. I'm going to start off and take a look at his articulation. The head is on a ball joint, but unfortunately you can't really make it go side to side at all. It just doesn't work. But he can look side to side like that, and he does have a bit of an indentation on the back of the head, which allows him to look up. Oh, ain't that nice. And his arms go that far out. Rotate all the way around. You get a bicep rotation. You do get a pretty good bend at the elbow. And the hand just moves like that. Also, you do get a butterfly joint at the shoulder, which is very, very nice. That's a clever way of introducing a transformation joint into an articulation joint. That was very nice. Very clever of them doing that. And then he has a waist swivel, then the leg. Go that far forward. Go that far back. You do a pretty good split. You get a thigh rotation. And you get a bend at the knee, which is pretty basic, but if you move this little panel out of the way, you do get a much better knee bend. Just put that back in place. And for the ankles, you get a ridiculously good ankle pivot. And you get some up and down as well. So yeah, articulation, especially for a figure this size, is pretty dang good. I really, really like it. And we shall move on to the details. Don't know why I said it that way, but I did. Here we have this very nice little Bumblebee face. Looks pretty dang good. Looks a heck of a lot better than the Masterpiece 2.0 Bumblebee face. I don't know what they were thinking with that face, but this one looks pretty good. I don't know how that happened, considering this figure's only like $20 and that was $200. How does that happen? That figure was all over the place. But anyways, we're talking about this figure, not that one. Yeah. You do have some color for the eyes. His eyes are a dark blue, but they don't really show up on camera that well. Honestly, they just kind of look black. But his eyes are a dark blue color. And they are painted quite nice. Although I do wish he had light piping in here, so his eyes could come through a bit better. But there is no light piping on it, which makes me a little sad. Seems like they're kind of moving away from light piping and not using it anymore, which I'm not the biggest fan of that. I really like light piping. I think that was a neat little feature they introduced, but whatever. You got his little chest here with a nice, clear Autobot symbol. That looks very nice. Some detail on the hands. Not the hands, but the arms. Put some detail on the inside of the arm. You have his hand, which is just on a friction joint. It's not even pinned, which I kind of wish it was, because I'm a little worried about this hand becoming loose over time. It's just a little worry of mine, but whatever. You get the legs. I kind of wish that part of this was painted black, so the leg isn't just broken up by this random bit of yellow. You get the front of the feet, which are clearly made to look like a Volkswagen Beetle, even though he doesn't transform into that. But hey, that's the original cartoon for you. You get the back of the figure with A pretty decent backpack, but it's not too bad. Sits nicely enough against his back so it doesn't bug me too much. What does kind of bug me is all the kibbly bits on the calves. That's yeah, that's not great. But I can't really see what else they could have done with it. So, well, yeah, it's not the greatest that this is here. It's understandable, and the rest of the figure does make up for it. So yeah, he is pretty dang neat. I do quite like this guy. Did a very nice job with the design on this figure. And because he was released around the time of the War for Cybertron trilogy line, he's got a bunch of holes all over the figure, even at the bottom of his feet, and even over here. So, if you want to arm him up and just put a bunch of... Can't speak. Goodness, that was a... that was a heck of a mess up. If you wanted to arm him up and just put a bunch of accessories on him, you can. And speaking of accessories, let's get into the ones that come with this figure, shall we? So first up, we get his blaster. Put the camera focus in on blaster. No, it won't. Alright, so I gotta do it this way. Or drop it, for crying out loud. There we go. So we have his blaster, which is based on the appearance from the very first episode. Which I almost didn't realize that. I thought it was just some random design because his blaster actually changes when they get to Earth. It looks completely different. So I almost didn't recognize this gun. But then I went back and watched the episode. I'm like, oh, that's what it's based on. So, and obviously, you can hold it in his hand. Like so. And it looks pretty good. Next up, we get technically quite a few, but they're all the same thing, and that is the energy conductors. Yeah, so you get these things also from that first episode. There we go. Focus down there. You get 5 of them. If I can get them lined up straight. There we go. Yeah, you get 5 of these little orange thingies, and there's like some sparkle stuff sprinkled into the orange plastic mold, so it makes them look even more shinier and reflective than they would normally. So that's kind of neat. So yeah, it's cool you get these little things. Unfortunately, you can't really do a whole lot with them. The end bit is too thick, so the figure can't hold it. They can't go in any of the holes or anything. They just... it's very odd that they would design it that way. Basically, all you can do with them is just get them all clumped together. And then just put them under his arm. And that's kind of it. That's really all you can do with these figures. Do with these accessories with this figure. Oddly enough, you can actually do more of them with the Origins Wheeljack. Which I think is kind of weird that you can do more of these accessories with the figure that they don't come with than the one that they do come with. So that is a bit odd. But him standing there holding them under his arm is not a bad look. But it is just weird that there's just not a whole lot you can do with them. That's a bit odd. And we now come to his final accessory, his jetpack. Yeah, because we all know that Bumblebee is infamous for his jetpack, right? Why is this here? I don't understand why he comes with a jetpack. Bumblebee never used a jetpack in that first episode, so why is this here? I don't know. In fact, the only time I can think of Bumblebee actually using a jetpack in the original cartoon was in the Season 2 episode, Dinobot Island, Part 1? Pretty sure that was it. It was the only time he used it. Why does he come with this? And I'm not complaining, it's cool, but like, I'm just confused why it's here. Yeah, you do get a peg there. You can just plug it into that, and there you go. You get Bumblebee with a jetpack. Although that, packed on top of his backpack, does make it stick out a little too far, but whatever. So yeah, now, as I mentioned earlier, there's some false advertisements going on with these. On the box, the gun and the jetpack are silver. Obviously, in person, they are not. So yeah, apparently at some point they were supposed to be painted, but the final product isn't, and that's something I don't know. Wish it was, but it's not. Also, the gun and the jetpack are compatible with Siege effects parts, so if you wanted to plug in some stuff, you can do that. But I don't have any of those effects parts, so I can't show them off, unfortunately. But yeah, that's it for accessories, and you do get quite... Oh, you dropped one, I gotta pick it up. Quite a lot. Especially for a deluxe figure, you do get quite a bit of accessories, even if some of them are semi-useless. You do get quite a bit. So, I can appreciate that. Yeah, just pretty cool. And I think that is all I've got to say about this figure, so we can move on to the size comparisons, part 2. And to start things off once again, here it is with a LEGO minifigure. Pack of Destruction minifigure Mothra. Godzilla. Energon Igniter's Bumblebee. Movie Deluxe Bumblebee. Movie Deluxe Barricade. 2010 over Cybertron Cliff Jumper. And finally, here it is, with the previous review, the Reveltech Zootopia Nick Wilde. Now that's finished. It's measuring time part 2. So, you can see the figure is a little over 4 inches tall. So yeah, he is pretty dang small for a deluxe figure. But he does kind of make up with it with all the accessories he comes with. So, it sort of balances out. Kind of. A little bit. And also, if you did want to make the figure a little taller, you can expose more of the ankle joint. You can have him stand like that, so that gives him just a little bit of extra height. And that is all I've got to say about Buzzworthy Bumblebee. Overall, he's pretty nice. I do really like this little dude. He's not a perfect figure. He does have some issues, like his size, making him feel like less of a deluxe and more of a scout class, or core class as they're calling it now. But like I mentioned earlier, the healthy amount of accessories do sort of make up for that. And overall, he just feels nice. He's just a solid, neat little dude, you know? Which is quite fitting for Bumblebee, if you ask me. So yeah, and if you wanted this figure for yourself, for once, I'm actually reviewing something that's still in stock, so you can get it at some online stores like Hasbro Pulse or Big Bad Toy Store. It's around $25, which isn't too bad. It is a bit odd that it's gone up a couple dollars, because originally it was only $23 when it originally released. But now the reissue is like a couple dollars more, which is... I don't know what's going on with that. That's a lot, but whatever. He's still in stock. And if you're a fan of Bumblebee, especially that first episode, the original cartoon, yeah, I recommend this guy. He's a lot of fun. He's pretty neat. So, yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you all enjoyed. See you later. Sayonara. Bye.